I started feeling I wanted to go where I felt the world was going next, which was recognizing that our health is very dependent on our daily behaviors. And not just to shout that from the rooftops, but to help people change their behaviors. And in order to do that, I had to create a very different kind of company. I had to build a behavior change technology company. And, Anu, I think that's probably the hardest thing to come to terms with, leaving a very successful business to start again.
Welcome back to the 2%. I'm your host, Anu Dougal, founding partner at Female Founders Fund. Today, we're joined by Arianna Huffington, a founder who's defined multiple areas of modern leadership. She built the Huffington Post into one of the most influential media companies of its generation, reshaping digital journalism before selling the company to AOL. In her second act, Arianna made a decisive pivot. She founded Thrive Global to focus on behavioral change as a powerful lever for health and performance. And that work continues to expand. In 2024, she and Sam Altman announced Thrive AI Health, a new venture backed by Thrive Global and the OpenAI Startup Fund, building a hyper-personalized AI health coach designed to bring expert-level guidance to more people. In this conversation, we talk about the moment that forced Arianna to rethink success and her second act, how her background in media and behavioral change has intercepted, and why small daily habits may be one of the most underestimated forces in healthcare today. Let's get into it. This season of the 2% is brought to you by JP Morgan. At Female Founders Fund, we're excited to partner with JP Morgan for Season 7 of Second Acts. For female founders, CEOs, and operators navigating what comes next, JP Morgan has been an unwavering supporter of our community. JP Morgan has dedicated banking teams to support you at every stage of your growth. As former founders, industry leaders, and company builders, they understand that every business owner's journey is unique. Learn more about how JP Morgan partners with startups and founders at jpmorgan.com/grow-without-limits. JP Morgan is the bank of the innovation economy. The future is female. This is the 2% by Female Founders Fund. We're funding the future. Hi, Arianna. So lovely to see you.
So great to see you. I know we've been on a long journey together.
Yes. I was just looking back through my notes, and I think it's almost going to be 9 or 10 years since we invested in Thrive Global. It's incredible to see the progress.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your early trust.
So on today's podcast, we are going to start our conversation really by going back in time. You're such an accomplished entrepreneur, and, this season is obviously about second acts. But before we get into the second act, I'd love to just start with your personal journey. So, we all know Huffington Post, and it really shifted, I think, a lot in the lens of digital journalism when it launched. But before you started Huffington Post, what led you to pursue media?
Well, I've always been a writer. I wrote my first book at 23. I've done 15 books now. And
what was the name of that first book?
The first book was called The Female Woman. It was about the changing role of women.
Love that.
And then I began to see by 2003, 2004, that the conversation was moving online. But a lot of people, a lot of great voices were not online.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to create an opportunity for people like Nora Ephron and Walter Cronkite and Norman Mailer to have a place to write, but make it very easy for them.
Right.
To respond to the news of the day, their thoughts.
Yeah.
So originally, that's how the Huffington Post started. And then, of course, over time, we developed into a full journalistic operation that won a Pulitzer, that had offices in 18 countries, 850 people newsroom. But the original idea was giving people who were great thinkers or writers an opportunity to be online.
Incredible. I mean, that story, especially being so early to the category, is so inspiring. And I want to go back a little bit to, 23-year-old you, when you were writing, obviously going from, being a writer, a prolific writer in that, to starting a tech company and raising capital and, kind of building out an organization is a huge step. And so you're living in New York. When and how did you decide that, this is the moment I want to pursue this opportunity and here's how I'm going to do it?
I think a lot has to do with tapping into the zeitgeist. I really believe there is such a thing as a zeitgeist. There is kind of a spirit of our times. And if you can see where the world is going and can create something that's where the world is going, it's an incredible opportunity. I think that was really what motivated me. And then I was very lucky to get a great co-founder in Kenny Lair, great group of investors, very small at the beginning. And then in 2011, we sold it to AOL. But I continued running it until 2016, when I decided I was ready for my next act.
Yeah. No, I love that. And, as the business grew, I'm sure your kind of leadership style also evolved. It's very different, in the early days of a startup to growing to, 850 people and 18 countries. And so if you were to describe how your leadership style evolved, from those early days to 2016 when you left, what would that be?
Well, the most important thing, Anu, is how I changed my perception that the only way to be successful founder and a successful divorced mom of two was to just completely sacrifice my own health and well-being. The idea that if you're really passionate about what you are doing, you don't need to sleep, you don't need to eat healthy. I bought into that completely at the beginning of the Huffington Post. And I ended up 2 years into founding it, collapsing from exhaustion, burnout, hit my head on my desk, broke my cheekbone. And that was the beginning of a very different style of leadership and a very different style of coverage. I mean, we started covering these issues. We launched a dedicated sleep section in 2007, which was really early. And so it wasn't just how I changed my life and my leadership style, how we changed the Huffington Post. I wrote these 2 books. You have one here. Thank you. Thrive. And after that, The Sleep Revolution. And 2016, I started feeling I wanted to go where I felt the world was going next, which was recognizing that our health is very dependent on our daily behaviors. And not just to shout that from the rooftops, but to help people change their behaviors. And in order to do that, I had to create a very different kind of company. I had to build a behavior change technology company. And, Anu, I think that's probably the hardest thing to come to terms with, leaving a very successful business to start again.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, before going into Thrive Global, I just want to give you so much kudos for the exit. As Female Founders Fund maintains, it's possible to generate great returns by investing in female founders. And so, just kind of going back in time to the moment when you felt like, it's time, there's a conversation to be had about a potential strategic partner. How did that evolve?
Oh, the great thing here was wanting to grow faster. And to grow faster, I could see 3 specific ways. I wanted to build our video operation. I wanted to build our investigative journalism operation. I wanted to build our international operation. That took a lot of money. And so we really had the opportunity to sell to AOL, which was really an incredible partnership because they invested in all these things and made possible the growth. I know not every acquisition is successful, but I have only good things to say about our acquisition. And also, we had put $1 million into the Huffington Post, and we sold it for 315.
Incredible. Such a, it's such a rare story. So not only did you identify this really exciting category of digital journalism, health, and then to be able to have such a successful exit is really so impressive. And so, now that you've had this exit and you are, basically hiring someone else to run Huffington Post, I can imagine it must have been hard. You're putting your baby in the hands of someone else. It's not just a company you created, it has your name. And so what was that experience like, kind of finding the right person?
Well, it wasn't really for me to find the right person. I was leaving.
Yeah.
So the team left, was going to find the right person. I think part of the decision any founder makes when they leave their startup is to know they left.
Right.
They have no control.
Right.
It's no longer their baby.
Yeah.
But I was very clear about that.
Yeah.
And what I was really driven by is the passion of what I wanted to build.
Yeah.
But it was hard. You're absolutely right. I remember making lists of pros and cons. And I called Sheryl Sandberg, and she said to me, tear up these lists and take a deep breath and jump.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to follow your heart, you have to be willing to fail.
Yes.
There are no guarantees. You know that.
Yeah.
You have to start again. Obviously, once you've had a successful exit, it's easier to raise money the second time. But still, you have to start hiring, making hiring mistakes, and building an entirely new company.
Yeah. So, Thrive Global, it's been, so exciting to see the evolution and the growth and, adoption from an AI perspective. But I'd like to go back to the early days. So as you said, you have stepped away. You've decided health is a really exciting area to invest in, to build something novel. And this is really where you want to devote your time. And so as you were thinking about the strategy, what was the original idea that you had? Because, so often you have an idea, you put it out in the world, and then you realize actually the consumer or, the behavior is different than what you anticipated. And so take us back to kind of the early Thrive Global days.
So the early days had to do with how can we change the culture around health. And the fact that these 5 daily behaviors that we now have tons of science validating ancient wisdom around them. And let me remind you what they are: sleep, food, movement. We don't even call it exercise because a lot of people don't move.
Yeah.
Stress management and connection. These 5 behaviors are more important than our genes in determining our health outcomes. And yet, they're treated more as warm and fuzzy additions rather than hardcore medical interventions. So from the beginning, we wanted to be very science-based. We wanted everything to demonstrate the fact that if you take care of your well-being and health, you're not just better off in terms of your long-term health, your health span and your lifespan, as we call it now, you are also much better off in terms of your productivity. Because what we do at Thrive Global is not a consumer product. We are only B2B. We work with hundreds of self-insured employers. And at first, less so now, we had to convince them that prioritizing the well-being and health of their employees is actually a productivity multiplier.
Absolutely.
That it's not like a benevolent thing to do.
Nice to have.
It's a very smart, strategic thing to do. And also, increasingly, we started working with pharma. And I'm really excited about that, Anu, because pharma is beginning to realize, and it started with Eli Lilly that we've been working with for 2 years, that when you add healthy behaviors on top of medicine, you improve outcomes, you improve adherence. It's a win-win. So I see these behaviors not just about prevention, because in this country, 130 million people are already sick.
Mhm.
They're already on some drug or another. So the question is, can they combine that with healthier habits? And in fact, one of our sayings is medicines plus healthy habits create outcomes neither can achieve alone.
Yeah. No, I love that.
And so I see it's the only way to transform our healthcare system, which is really a sick care system.
Mhm.
And to focus on another thing we say is the fact that health is also what happens between doctor visits.
Mhm.
You know, you can go and have an amazing physical once a year at Mayo Clinic. What are you doing the rest of the year? You know, are
Yeah.
you eating junk?
Yeah.
Are you sedentary?
Right.
How are you sleeping? I'm wearing my Oura ring, tracking my sleep every day. All those factors
Yeah. No,
dramatically
absolutely.
affect your health.
Absolutely. So, kind of going back to the early days at Thrive, I'm sure there were moments where you were able to reflect on, what are the things I want to take with me from the Huffington Post? What are the things that really worked well? And how would I do things differently with Thrive Global? And so I'm curious, what were the 3 things that you said, I want to I don't want to do these in the way that we did them at Huffington Post. And here are the 3 things that I'm incredibly passionate and confident work really well.
Well, definitely going back to what we said, I wanted to make sure that in my own life, in the life of everybody working at Thrive Global, recovery was part of peak performance.
Mhm.
So we actually created, and that's connected to a second thing, we created something called Thrive Time. Meaning you may have to pull an all-nighter. You may have to work over a weekend. You are an ambitious startup. Then take Thrive Time. Take time off immediately after. Don't
Right.
bank it.
Right.
To recharge,
Mhm.
to recover, and come back fully
Great.
refreshed. So these 2 things. The first about not buying into the burnout culture mindset. The second, not thinking that because our company is about wellness and
Yeah.
health, we are like, we want you to chill under the mango tree.
Right.
So these 2 things together
Mhm.
were things I definitely wanted to do differently, and we did do differently. The third thing has to do with the fact that there's so much emphasis on what we call the exit interview.
Yeah.
And the truth is that we don't really spend enough time on what we started initiating
Mhm.
At Thrive that we call the entry interview.
Mhm.
So on the first day of each new employee, the manager spends 15 minutes with them. And the first question is, what is most important to you outside your work?
Mhm.
And how can I support you?
Yeah.
And it's amazing the kind of connection that it creates between manager and employee and how much you immediately learn about them. It could be, I have an elderly patient, a parent with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
I have a physical therapy appointment I want to make every Thursday at 6 or whatever. People are reluctant to share this information. And so often they fester and become kind of resentful.
Right. No, being able to be transparent and to be able to share what's important, I think, is such a valuable way to start.
To do things differently.
Yeah.
And then your other question was things that...
leaving behind.
Well, these were the things I left behind.
Yeah.
The things that I wanted to do differently. One was I wanted to be a better delegator. As a leader, you often think, oh my God, I have to do this, or nobody will do it as well.
Yeah.
And I had to actually tell myself, listen, you hand this over, somebody else may do it 60% as well as you would do it at the beginning. And maybe in 3 months, they're going to be doing it much better than you did. But you have to let go. Otherwise, you cannot, as a founder, really think of higher order things, where the future is, what you're doing. So that was something really important.
Yeah.
The other thing, especially now when we're living in such times of turbulence, uncertainty, to actually learn to be in the eye of the hurricane, to learn to be unflappable, no matter what happens. I mean, I have a very deep spiritual foundation. So that helps, because I do believe I'm living in a benevolent universe. My favorite little quote is by Rumi: live life as though everything is rigged in your favor.
I love that.
So I had a disposition towards that, but still in the middle of building something, it's so easy to lose track of that.
Definitely on a daily basis, I know that, life can overwhelm you. So having that spiritual core, I can imagine, is so helpful.
And then the third thing is really at the heart of our methodology, which is what we call micro steps, small incremental daily steps in whatever area, in these 5 behaviors, in your leadership style, small improvements that cumulatively become big improvements. One of our sayings, as you can see, we have a lot of little sayings everywhere. One of our sayings is, the incremental is monumental. And when we accept that, we can really tap into a lot of science about how in 60 to 90 seconds, for example, we can course correct from stress, which is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Such great takeaways, and you can see how that health experience has directly impacted, how you're leading today. Before we get back to the conversation, a quick word from JP Morgan. As founders enter new chapters, scaling, evolving, or stepping into their second act, having the right banking partner matters. JP Morgan supports businesses at every stage of growth with specialized teams and deep sector knowledge built from real-world operating experience. To learn more, visit jpmorgan.com/grow-without-limits. JP Morgan is the bank of the innovation economy. So, one interesting facet of your journey has been obviously going from a media startup to a business that's really focused, as you said, on selling into businesses. And that skill set is completely different. And, we've had a couple of founders who've made similar kind of changes where you're just building in a different category. And they've all said that, it's really that first customer that takes a bet on you that you remember the most, because, you're building something new, you're putting it out in the world, and it's just a really great feeling to be able to get the buy-in of, whoever that first customer may be. And so in your early days, is there anyone that stands out in terms of, chief benefit officer or HR buyer that was really excited about Thrive Global and excited to kind of launch it within the organization?
Absolutely. In fact, it's better than that. I was still at the Huffington Post, contemplating leaving. And I was told by my assistant that Ellen Shook was the chief people officer at Accenture, was in the building. They were working on some advertising deal, and she wanted to meet with me. So she came to my office. We sat down. We had this immediate connection. And I said to her, I haven't really said that to many people, but I'm ready to leave, and this is what I'd like to start. And I described my whole vision, everything, and she said to me, do it, and I will be your first customer.
Wow, that's incredible.
I mean, it's beyond incredible.
Yes.
I mean, she and I have been great friends since, and she just stepped down at Accenture and was succeeded by Kate Clifford. But Accenture, for all these 9 years, has been an incredible partner. We launched so many things together. We launched the first big mental health curriculum. We launched the first cognitive nutrition curriculum. She was and is a complete visionary.
Yes.
So I will never forget this moment.
Yeah.
It was so unexpected.
Yeah.
And it gave me this confidence that, yes, I'm starting fresh. I have no investors. I have no employees, but I have one customer.
Yes.
And not just any customer, a huge multinational company. At the time, they had 600,000 employees. I think now they have 900,000.
Wow. That's a great story. It's very rare to hear that. It's usually the employee or the investor and then the customer. But I can imagine, that must have been such a big sign that,
Yes, that's so. I love signs.
Definitely a sign.
It was a big sign from the universe.
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yes. So, I think one of the more recent announcements from Thrive Global has really focused on working with OpenAI's Startup Fund and really trying to find a way to, again, incorporate behavioral health within consumers' lives. So maybe you can share a little bit about that partnership?
So we launched a new company called Thrive AI Health in partnership with the OpenAI Startup Fund. Sam Altman and I wrote a piece about the vision behind it. And the vision behind it is, how can we use the AI power of hyper-personalization to help people through AI coaching improve their habits? And if you think of it, a lot of advice that's given to people around this habit is very generic. Like, even if your doctor tells you something about your nutrition, they are likely to tell you, go on a Mediterranean diet, which most people don't know what that means or how to implement it. Or worse, start eating steamed broccoli, which, is not sustainable, although I've grown to love steamed broccoli. So the coach onboards you, knowing everything about you, as much information as you are willing to share, your biometric data, your lab data, your preferences. And the coach starts small and never judges you. We've had people onboarded, who tell us about terrible habits. I mean, one of them, I remember, in the questionnaire about dinner, said, I eat fried chicken every night. So if you say, oh, no, you can't eat fried chicken, you have to have kale salad at night, you lost them.
Yeah.
So we start with, can you change the oil you fry it in?
Yeah.
Can you fry it in olive oil or avocado oil? And so the whole power of AI personalization is really an incredible gift to behavior change.
Absolutely.
And that's what we are focusing on. And again, it's not a consumer product. It's a product for employers and for pharma. Eli Lilly was an investor is an investor in the company and has already brought it into Lilly Direct.
Amazing. So, the name of the podcast is The 2%, and I'm sure you're aware that, that's really a nod to the need for more awareness and momentum around investing in female founders. We've seen some good progress, but I'm curious, when you think about your leadership and the hiring decisions and your team, how does that 2% number play into the way that you think about, your leadership style?
Well, first of all, I think there is something about women. There are many men who have it as well, which is the ability to build real relationships and partnerships, whether it's with the people you sell to. I mean, all the people we sell to are our partners. We don't have vendor relationships. They know that they can call us at any time about any problem, and we are going to be there for them, even if it's not in the SOW. I remember Ellen Shu calling me and saying, I'm having a problem with someone who works for me. He's developing heart problems. I don't know what to do. So I said, I'm sending our chief training officer, who is incredible, Joy Hubbard, to work with him. He worked with him every day. And the guy turned everything around. Ellen called me, said, send me an invoice. I said, there's no invoice. Now, this is not just women who behave like that, but it tends to be more of a characteristic of women leaders and women building intimate relationships that are not just transactional. The same way in terms of the people we work with. I mean, I feel very blessed that I love the people I work with. I mean, Libby Duke, whom you met, who is our head of comms. I mean, she's so much fun to be with. Danny Sher was with me at the Huffington Post. He left and joined me at Thrive. So I don't really separate my work life from my life very much. I think I feel very blessed about that. And again, that's something that women, without stereotyping them, tend to bring more into the work they do.
Yes, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I've really enjoyed getting to know your team as well. So we're now going to move into the lightning round. And these are quick fire questions. Feel free to answer with whatever comes to mind first. So let's start with your routine at the end of a long day. What relaxes you?
I love my routine. I want to evangelize my routine. So my routine has to do, first of all, with declaring an end to my working day. Because the truth is, people don't have an end to their working day today. We could, I, probably everybody listening, could stay up all night handling things. So you have to declare it. Say, this is it. Get comfortable with incompletions. And I feel that if you do it with a ritual, you are more likely to sustain it. My ritual is I turn off my phone and I charge it outside my bedroom. As you know, the only product we've produced is a little charging station that looks like a phone bed. You can put the phone under the blanket, tuck it in, and you reconnect in the morning. And it's not a profit center. We sell it at below cost on Amazon, because we want people to have tools to help them as they change behavior. Then I like to have a hot shower or a hot bath. It's not for cleanliness. It's to wash away the day. It's to begin to slow down my brain. And then getting into bed, I actually love real lingerie. A lot of us just sleep in our T-shirts, probably the same T-shirt we go to the gym with, not literally, but, washed, I hope. But I like having, real sleepwear.
Yeah.
And I've now converted my daughters to real sleepwear. And then I only read real books.
Same.
In bed.
Yeah.
Nothing on Kindle even. Nothing. And nothing to do with work. Poetry, spiritual books, novels. And my nightstand is like a little altar. There is a real alarm clock when people say, oh, I need my phone there to wake me up. No, you don't. You can get a Pottery Barn, not because I'm on the board of Williams Sonoma, but I recommend their beautiful $35 old-fashioned alarm clocks, a book, a candle, a picture frame, and a flower.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that mental image. What is one myth about second acts that you'd like to bust?
The myth is that it's scary to give up something successful. Success is a huge trap. We are so often defined and confined by our labels and our success. I have friends, I'm sure you do too, who have big jobs as CEOs and they hate them. But if you have the conversation, why don't you leave? Why don't you do something else? The fear is, who am I going to be?
Mm.
They're so identified with a successful role. And I feel it's so liberating to be willing not to be identified by whatever your successful title and role is. And that requires being willing to fail. But I was very lucky to have a mother who used to say to me, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone to success. So she actually really brought me up, willing to take risks and to fail along the way.
So important. Who is one under-the-radar female founder you'd like to highlight?
So this is going to be super surprising because she is an amazing woman in her 70s, the richest woman in the world. But she is under the radar because she's doing unbelievable work, and not a lot of people know about it. And her name is Alice Walton.
Yes, of course.
So Alice has become a good friend, and I'm so full of admiration for what she's building. First, she built the Crystal Bridges Museum, which was basically an incredible museum of American art in the middle of Arkansas. And everybody was saying, who is going to go there? You know, you're going to hide all this great art there. And it's been an incredible success.
Yes.
And then she decided to transform healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And she has now launched medical school, bringing up doctors and nurses, both on the standard of medical care and on these behaviors.
Yeah.
So I think she's a real pioneer. She and I often joke that we have a sense of urgency because we don't have a lot of time left. So we have to do everything faster.
Yeah.
And she's funny.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to know about her. And
she's incredible.
And because
Great
she's
choice.
truly incredible. So it's kind of funny to say that she's under the radar.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking,
yes,
she's under the radar.
No, I've been. The hospital is amazing. I think one of the few women who's ever, started a hospital. So love that choice. Thank you so much, Arianna, for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure, and so many great sayings and learnings and, spiritual sayings. So really, really appreciate your time, and congratulations on all you've built.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your early trust.
Thank you, of course. That was our conversation with Arianna Huffington. We hope you enjoyed hearing how Arianna's second act with Thrive Global builds on her career in media, and why she believes behavioral change supported by AI could be one of the most powerful forces reshaping the future of healthcare. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to The 2% on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks so much for listening.